Do you live in Florida? And are you aware of the natural disasters that come here on a yearly basis? Well, you're going to want to tune into this episode. Adriana, who has so many years of experience in the field, very much so an expert, please listen in and find out some of the things you're going to want to know if you live in the area. Thank you as well to Alexander for being a co-host. You guys are great.
Awesome. I'm really excited about this, Adriana. It's been a pleasure connecting through Facebook to meeting in person and now having you on the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. What about you guys?
Good. Yeah, doing great.
Really well. It's a good day.
Yeah, that's awesome. One thing that I really liked about talking with you, Adriana, is you had the experience of being a customer side of things, and I think that would be a great place for you to start. Like, what was your customer interaction like, and how did you kind of decide to go forward with things?
Yeah, so basically 3 years back, we experienced a fire in our home. And it was just one of those things that you think that you know everything regarding your policy and what you need to do when, this type of unexpected accidents happen, but we were just not prepared. We didn't have the information. We knew we have a homeowner's insurance, and we know that we were covered, but we didn't know all the details that we need to know. We didn't have this information. So when it happened, it was just like we were at the mercy of the insurance company and then the contractors that were sent by the insurance company, but we didn't have the right tools and the information to be able to make the best decisions at a time. We started learning as the process went on, and that's basically what propelled me into opening the business.
That's awesome. And if you're okay with me asking too, like, how did the fire happen exactly? Like, how big was this fire? Was it like, did it cause a lot of damage? Was it a little bit of damage? What occurred?
We also want to give a big shout out to Amanda Russell. I know legal things can come up every now and then in terms of needing legal help. So please reach out to Amanda Russell. She is absolutely amazing and my trusted go-to person who's amazing to work with and is very affordable. Reach out to her. Her Calendly link is in the description below. Alrighty, cheers.
Yeah, it just basically the whole kitchen island burned down. They never found out what was the cause. It was a brand new home. I'm assuming that it had to do something with the new construction, because here in Florida, most of these homes are basically from zero to full-blown house in a couple of weeks. So things are rushed. Sometimes I don't think the quality is right there. All the safety things that they need to check, I don't think they're in place. So they were never able to find the cause by it, but it was just a kitchen island and the whole house was affected. It had to be gutted completely to the studs. So we had to be out of our home for 92 days.
Oh my gosh.
While the whole remediation and the reconstruction part took place, because it's not only just the restoration, but then it comes contractors, and you know how timelines are with contractors. Some of them can be busy for a month, and you have to just sit and wait until the process gets done.
And so during those 92 days, what were you doing? Like, were you staying at a hotel? Was the insurance company paying for any of that, or was that kind of on you?
Yeah, the insurance company paid for our accommodation to be in a hotel. I mean, it's
Okay.
still not ideal, when you have a kid and you're just trying to run your life out of a hotel with none of your belongings, because everything has to be restored. So they just tell you, get a couple weeks worth of clothes. We're gonna give you those back, and then the rest you're gonna see in a few months.
I've had something similar happen to me where, a lot of construction going on in my house. We had to stay in a hotel. And essentially what the insurance company did is they gave us a set amount of days. I believe it was 60 days that they would cover. And anything beyond that, they weren't liable for. And then the contractors that they had sent out took longer than 60 days. So it wasn't by any choices we had made.
Wow.
It was by what the insurance company did. And then we were responsible. So, not in nowhere near as severe a case that I went through. But, I feel that kind of pain.
Yeah, and then just talking to, the vendors that they send. Before I was even done talking to firefighters, which was the first responders, vendors were already flooding my house, just knocking the doors, because a lot of people in the restoration industry listen to the radios from the fire stations. So as soon as they know that a fire hit, they rush to that house with nobody calling them, but they go there just to be first inside, and people are overwhelmed and you're like in panic. So when somebody comes and say, I can help you, yeah, you start signing, right? You don't know any better. So they do that. And that's a very terrible practice, I feel like,
Mm.
because people are at a very vulnerable point. You're going through something that you don't even know what's happening. And when somebody comes and say, well, I can start taking the things away and start cleaning your house, a lot of people just out of the fear and the unknown, they're like, yeah, sure, help me out. Not knowing
Mm.
that in a couple of weeks, you're going to get a bill for thousands of dollars and now you're responsible to pay for
Oh
this.
my gosh.
So that happens to me just for the contents. That was the first kind of wake up call for me because they said, we're here from the insurance company. I assume they sent them, but they were just like a preferred vendor. So they didn't send them. They're just a preferred vendor for that insurance. And they showed up and they said, we're here to take all your contents, your clothing. So I'm like, perfect, that's fine. Within 2 weeks, I got my first bill for $25,000
My
cleaning all
gosh.
my clothes. And we're like,
Dollars for moving your clothes?
for dry cleaning your clothes,
My gosh.
$25,000. And the
And so
insurance approved it.
is there any legal protection or any route to dispute that exists, or you're just stuck with that bill?
You're stuck with that bill. Yeah, so the
Okay,
insurance
so
approve it. They're like, that's within the average for a size of the home that you have. I disagree. I'm like, I don't have $25,000 worth of clothing. I think if you give me 5,000, I can replace the whole wardrobe.
Wow.
Uh,
So, with that being said, like, what advice would you give somebody else if they have something similar kind of occur at this point in time?
the first thing will be to hold on into making any decisions on that
Mm.
first day. Just sleep through it, just first collect yourself, make sure that your family is safe, and just take all your personal belongings and important documents out of your home. The rest, everything can wait. Nothing has to be decided overnight. So that will be the
Mm.
first piece of advice. Not rush into making any decisions.
Mhm.
Don't hire anybody on the first day because you're going through a lot. You
Mhm.
cannot think straight when you're going through trauma.
Wow.
and so how did sort of this experience lead to your business? Like what were sort of those initial thoughts in the immediate aftermath, and how did that sort of lead to where you are now?
Yeah, but it was like a long process, like I said, almost 3 months. So I had a lot of time to, kind of think about the whole aspect of what I was going through and just thinking that, well, this is a fire, but imagine the people that go through hurricanes. Imagine the people that had mold in their homes. Imagine the
Mm.
people that some of their family members commit a suicide. All these
Mm.
unexpected situations that are within this industry. And I started thinking, wow, it's just amazing that all these people out there are supposed to be helping. These contractors are there, the first ones on site to help people during these tragic times. And sometimes it turns into a second tragedy because people are going through
Mm.
something horrible, but then now they have to face these uncertain waters of what to do because they don't even have the information. So I start thinking there needs to be like more information out there just for like unexpected things happening. People need
Mhm.
to be aware of their policies, understand what they have. Yes, I have coverage for water, mold, but how much? Everybody assumes that they're going to be covered, but no, insurances have caps, especially here in Florida. Right now, they're placing a lot of caps because we have a lot of natural disasters. So the
Mm.
insurance has to protect themselves and they only cover up to a certain point, which to a regular homeowner that is not informed, you might think $10,000 is plenty. It's
Mm.
not. So it just, as I started kind of going through my process, I started thinking, my God, this is just me with a home that was not totally destroyed, but still affected to an extent that I'm going to have to be displaced. How many people are going
Mm.
through these and just
Mm.
having to navigate it just the best that they can? In some cases, people are not even, they don't even have the resources to go out there and look for any help. They're overwhelmed, and sometimes they don't even do anything. They just live in a house that is not even safe for them to be in.
Wow.
And so, sorry, I have one specific question that might be a little bit of a backtracking, and then sort of I do want to hear more about, what your business is. I think you've done a really good job of articulating sort of the problem that exists, and I think, I'd love to hear sort of how you come in, you fit in, and do your best to solve that problem. But before that, there was one. I'm in the insurance industry. I work with a lot of property and casualty insurance agents, and something that you said sort of set off a lot of alarm bells in my head about sort of how the insurance industry works. When you're talking about caps, are those, every property and casualty agent that I've met always talks about how good of a job they do of informing their clients. And obviously, you sit down with someone and that's not how it goes. But when you talk about these caps and you talk about them in a state like Florida where there's a lot of floods, a lot of, hurricanes, whatever it might be, are those caps subject to change? Like, say we were to sign a policy now over the course of the next year, there's two hurricanes and something else in wildfire going on. And can the insurance company change the caps on those policies retroactively?
I don't think that they can change it like just in the snap of a fingers. I think that I don't know how often they revise those caps. It's not something that they will change just because something happened and then in that moment they're like, okay, we're gonna place a cap. You should have that in your policy when you sign for it, and that's something that we don't ask our agents because it's something homeowners just are not aware. They just think that because you have coverage, that includes everything. They don't even understand that this exists. I didn't even understand that before it happened to me. So I think that every agent should inform that to the homeowner for sure. Not just you have coverage for water, but up to what amount, so that the person understand that, yeah, maybe this is a cheaper policy, but it's gonna not cover to the extent that you might need when a hurricane hits.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and then so sort of like I said before, you've done an incredible job articulating sort of what the problem is. So now I want to hear a little bit about, what your solution is, what you do.
Yeah, so basically that I said, okay, well, Puroclean was a company that restored my home when I had that issue, and it was just like a very big difference from the other contractors that I dealt with and asked for estimates. To start with, some companies will not even answer the phone. Second, if it's a residential job, they're not interested. They want commercial. They don't want anything that is below $50,000. That's just not important to them. The big companies that we see in billboards and everywhere around, they're not so much interested in the residential. They want to target commercial because of their profit margins. And then third one, they might show up and your estimate might not hit your inbox for 3 weeks. When you're talking about time is of essence, like you said, insurance will, in some cases, have just particular days that they will cover for you to be in a hotel. And when there is not an urgency from these contractors to do anything, that just the customer falls in the cracks again. So my company focuses greatly on that. First of all, response. When somebody calls within 2 hours, there's going to be somebody from the team visiting them. If it's something that is a biohazard situation, we try to be there within the hour because we know that those are sensitive situations that might be just health related and they have to just deal with it as soon as possible. Sewage, or in the cases of like an infectious disease, it has to be really, really quick. So responsive is the first thing that we have, just be on site, meet the customer just to understand, explain to them the process, what they need to just first checklist, the first things they need to do. Gather all your documents, gather your important things, gather family heirlooms, things that you want to preserve, that you don't want to run the risk of somebody losing them. So I always give them the checklist because I didn't have that when it happened to me. And I think that that's vital for them to at least see in a paper what are the things that they need to do first before they even make or sign any contracts. The third one will be just that we're certified. Not all the companies that are out there are certified to do this type of job. It happened to me too. People that, the insurance sent, they didn't verify that. And when I talked to the insurance, they're like, well, that's just not my job to verify. That was your due diligence. You missed on doing like, I will expect that if it's your preferred vendor, you will have them certified to do fire restoration. So we're certified. All our technicians are certified before, they can do any type of job like this in the people's homes. We want to keep everybody safe, and we want to do something that is just within the industry standards, which a lot of people don't understand. That they think that a cleaning company can do restoration, and that's so wrong. And so, it's just very hard when you come to biohazard situations and you see a cleaning company there provided an estimate for something that they're not even certified or licensed to do.
Oh my
But it
gosh.
happens all the time. And the customer a lot of times will go with that because he's going to charge a third of the price that a restoration company would do. So just, the certifications are in place. So the urgency, number one. Second, give the customer the information that they need to make the best decision. Third one, certifications. Constantly train our technicians and our staff so that they can provide up-to-date information to the customer when they're out there. And we just do the 4 major ones, which is the water, the fire, the mold, and the biohazard.
Oh.
We cover those 4 aspects of the property damage.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea that that someone could call a cleaning company thinking that they would be getting a certain service and then not be getting what they need at all without even being aware of it. And I'm sorry to do this, but I want to jump back a little bit into your story, because in the process of having this fire, going into having to stay somewhere else, how long did it take for you to decide, I'm going to start doing this myself? Like, this is, as far as I can tell, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you said it was a pretty like unenjoyable experience. And then you said, I'm going to start doing this myself. Like, how long did that decision process take?
Just about by the end of the restoration, like during those 92 days, I think it was the last week
Mm.
when we were about to just return home and they were already doing the reconstruction. I started talking to the owner of the Puroclean that restored my home, and I asked him, I know you've been in the industry for more than 15 years, and what do you think is that is happening? What is the gap? Why people are not getting the help that they need? He's like, well, we need more people that are not only good at what they do, but that they care about what they do. And he's like, we don't have enough. So I'm like, I really would like to focus on start helping people in Pinellas County, because he was focused on Pasco County. And he, with his arms wide open, he said, well, I offer to be your mentor, and if you want to go ahead and just connecting you, and we can just start making the difference together. He started with a fire too. He had a fire in his home, and that's kind of what got him into the business too. He understood that part of how important it is to just have this perspective from a customer side, because you can really understand what people, when somebody calls you, you know how they feel, and you know that urgency that comes to mind when you experience it.
Wow. No, that's really cool. It's having a mentor in any kind of business is huge, and it's great to hear that you had one that seems like they've been super helpful.
Yes, and actually I did an internship for a Puroclean when I was in college, so that's kind of where the Puroclean name linger in my brain. For those many years, over 20 years, it always kind of linger in my head. So after we were just dealing with all the preferred vendors from the insurance, Puroclean was not one that they sent. And I'm like, wow, I wonder if there's a Puroclean locally, because I remember that when I did the internship, how this owner was so passionate and was so involved about his business, doing it very good and very caring about, the customers that he dealt with. And I'm like, there has to be one, around here. So that's kind of what I kind of stumbled upon the Puroclean in Separate Hills.
Wow.
That's awesome. Yeah, and so I'm going to ask sort of a specific question about something you had said earlier. A few things that you've said have really sort of triggered alarm bells in my head about sort of the existing industry. The main one being there are people that are listening in to the radios and the fight that show up on the site within however many minutes. Like I'm sure that there's a number, but that show up while somebody is carrying their family out of a burning building, and they're trying to sort of recollect themselves, and there's people in their face. What can you do to sort of dissuade people from being in that state and signing whatever papers are put in front of them? Like, is there a way that you can get in front of people in advance of these situations? Is that sort of one of your goals as in starting this business?
Yes, that's definitely priority for me. Like I was saying, education is big for me. I'm big on education. So I do a lot of lunch and learns through the community. I partner up with different property managers. I partner up with police departments, and we do a lot of sessions where we inform people before these things happen. Just like here in Florida, we already know that around March, we need to start getting ready for hurricane season. So during that time, every week I'm doing lunch and learns at different communities that they invite me, HOAs, to prepare people with resources. Hurricane season is coming. These are trusted vendors. And sometimes we do panels with public adjusters, restoration companies, roofing companies, where everybody's in there in one place and people can ask questions. What are their concerns? What would they like to learn about? And for us to provide that information that is vital when hurricanes hit.
I think that's one of the coolest things you can do. I think that's incredible. That really sort of solves the issue that you're talking about. And so one of the things that you were talking about before as well is sort of a preferred vendorship with insurance companies. do you work with insurance companies, or are you able to sort of find a loophole around that and just sort of not deal with yourself with insurance companies? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I work with I'm preferred vendor as a corporate Puroclean because Puroclean has 400 franchises. So as a corporate, we're preferred vendor for different ones, but I don't work very closely with them for the same reason. I try to work directly with the customer. I provide all the
Mhm.
documentation and everything that the insurance, as if it was an insurance directed claim. But I try to work directly with my customers, and very luckily, it's just been just the way that my business run. I work directly with them, give them all the supporting documentation, they get reimbursement from the insurance. Because once the insurance starts dictating what people have to do in their houses, I don't think that's right. Ultimately, it's their property and they should be the ones making the decisions.
Yeah, it's very similar concept to, and maybe this is a little on topic for today's world, but it's very similar concept to, who should be making medical decisions? Is it the insurance people or is it doctors? Now you're looking at houses. Is it, the people that live in those houses and use the house every day, or is it somebody sitting in an office who, has no ties to the house, has no idea what's going on? So that's a really interesting approach. I really like it.
Yeah, and especially because sometimes insurance companies, when it comes to the health and safety of the restoration company technicians, they won't even pay for that. Protective equipment, right away they call you and they said, the PPE is not included. I'm like, how are you supposed to do this biohazard situation and PPE is not included? How are you supposed to, what are you telling me that I'm not supposed to use 10 filters when that's for the safety of the homeowner? That's necessary. And it's just things like that that really bother me when I have to deal directly with them, when I have to navigate with them. I try to navigate helping my customer and talking to them, but ultimately they have to always reach out to public adjusters to kind of help them just fight for what is that they're supposed to have. I mean, they're paying for these policies for sometimes 20 years, and then when it comes for the insurance to help them out, everything is an issue.
And just for clarity, for anyone who doesn't know what PPE is, it's personal protective equipment, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, it's the stuff that that would include things like hazmat suits or like wearing a mask or anything that would protect the person, that would be like personal equipment that they would use to go onto a job site and like remove a wall or get rid of mold or anything along those lines.
Exactly.
No, I mean, I'm just trying to imagine what life would be like if that happened to me and I didn't have somebody like you to guide me. I'd be stumbling. I'd have no idea what to do. Somebody walks in the door and says, I'm here to help. I'm here with the insurance company. Let's go. I'm signing whatever they put in front of my face. I am trying to get out of the house. I am trying to, tidy everything up and I'm in panic mode. And somebody comes, says, oh, I'm here to help. I'm signing it. So it's a little scary to hear that, that's kind of the way things work. But it's really nice to learn that, somebody like you exists and is out there solving this problem.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of I always tell people because I collaborate with several restoration companies. I know that I can help people, but I cannot help them all. And I like to always partner up with people that are aligned with my same values and people that are in the whether it's people from Puroclean or other brands, I always try to reach out to them, if nothing else, because some of these companies might not even know what is the best way to help them because they have never been in this situation. So I always try to reach out to, especially when we're preparing for storm season, and just be like, I'm here for you. I hope you're there for me too when I need to send somebody trustworthy to my customers, and that you can be transparent about things. Sometimes we're like the bearer of the bad news. I always tell my customers, I'm going to say a couple things that you might not love, but I just want you to be aware that these are the news, these are the good news, the not so good news, but then this is a solution and we can move forward doing A, B, or C. Is your decision, but here's the information.
And Adriana, what was it that you said when you first start talking to a customer? I think it was along the lines of like making sure how they are doing first before asking any other questions.
Yes, because I feel that for me, that make a big difference. People were here like, do you want me to take your stuff? Do you want me to do this? Do you want me to clean your house? But nobody asked me, how are you doing? Are you okay? Is your family fine? Is there anything that I can do for you? Like just simple things that when you're in the midst of it, just people, I guess they lose touch because they do it every single day. They see tragedy every single day. Like I was talking to Ian, like once we start hitting the holidays, we get a lot of biohazard situations. Sadly, suicides increased tremendously during the holiday season.
Wow.
And just is the same. It's very sensitive. I mean, these are sensitive situations. Sometimes family members are, a lot of times they're in Canada, up north, they're not even around. And they just want somebody on site that can help them out because their family member was the only person living in the city and they need to get things done.
Wow. And I hope it's okay if I ask this, like, and I hope it's okay if everyone is it like just in general for the listeners as well. Like, how many of these calls do you think you get in relation to like during Christmas time season versus other seasons?
It probably will increase in like a 50%.
50%. Wow.
Mhm.
Okay. Wow. 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 And just to sorry to like switch topics, but I'm wondering like when you're talking about going over into doing these seminars, so to speak. I'm not sure if that's the right word for it. But when you're going out and you're talking about hurricane season and that kind of thing, what does that do for you as far as like, was that ever like a marketing strategy that you were ever thinking of? Or was that just kind of like, we should do this to educate and help, but does it also add that benefit as well?
Of course, it's just, I think that is when you put out there, when you put information out there, you're going to be the first person in touch with those people that are just looking for resources. Because when I do these workshops, especially people like 55 plus, they're there and they're really trying to soak all the information in. A lot of them have never lived in Florida before. They don't know all the things that we deal with, mold, flooding, all these things that for us is like second. I mean, we live here, we know every year, prepare your bag, do this. We know our little system. But somebody that just moved here, and they're a little bit older, every single thing that of information that they can grasp is like vital. So when I do these seminars, it's not only just for the marketing purpose, but for me to connect with other vendors, because that's what I like. When I'm going to hurricane season, I want to have trusted roofers, people that can help me with tree removal, contractors that can help my customers. So ultimately, this is my goal, to just connect with that network. So when it happens, I can be the source for my customers, so I can solve those problems for them when it, we have to deal with it, and just create this network of people that are into the same, like I said, aligned with what I'm doing. They want to do the best for their customers. They want to help. They're running businesses. Of course, we all are running businesses and we want profit, but the ultimate goal is to prepare the community so when it strikes, they're ready for it.
Yeah, I
Wow.
mean, you can be marketing and doing what's best for your client at the same time. Like you're educating, and if you are the best solution out there, it's never a bad thing.
And like I always tell my customers, when I come to see you, I need you to look for other options too, because as a customer, it will make you feel better when you make this decision, knowing that you already explored two more. So I always say,
I
even if you love me, please call another two companies, because I want you to see what they offer, the way, and I want you to feel comfortable. I want you to talk to a person. This person is going to be in your home. They're going to be touching your belongings. They're going to be part of your life for a little
Wow.
bit. So you really need to feel comfortable. I want you to it's like dating, right? You're not going to just marry the first person that you have to explore your options. You have to just know what this person is saying, and then you start to see those, that those things start to align. Oh, this person told me that I need to cut my walls 2 feet. This person told me that it has to be 4 feet. Oh my God. But this one said that 2 feet too. Now you know which one you have to, so it's just for them to just realize that information, that, it starts to kind of get into what is the right thing to do. And if
Yeah.
they just go for one option, they really don't know if that's, the right process. I always tell them, just please look for a couple other estimates, review them, talk to the people, check their credentials, and then get back to me once you're ready to make a decision.
I really like that because it's like, I never really thought of it as, yeah, this person's going to be in the house. Like I have this thing happen. They're going to be in my house. They are going to be touching my things. I need to figure out who's going to be the best option. Plus, you're also educating yourself just that little bit more by getting 3 quotes, because you can then start to see the differences, and you're not going to feel like you have someone pulling something on you or anything, because you have this person telling you, this person telling you, this person telling you, and it starts to develop a bit of a story in your mind to say, okay, this is what maybe I should be expecting. Maybe this isn't what I want. And like you said, it's a little bit like dating. So you're kind of having to pick that company or person to work with and say, okay, they're going to be kind of personally in my life for a minute. Like, what do I want to do? Wow.
And also with the contractors that I work, even if I love a public adjuster, I always give my customers three options. Every single profession that I refer, I'll give them three options. These are people that I work with, that I trust. Research them, talk
Mm.
to them, and then choose the one that feels better.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
I think transparency is incredibly important, and that's just a really good way to be transparent.
Yeah. How do you feel that builds the rapport with the customer when you say something like that to them?
I think that they feel that once I'm confident about the services that I provide, that I'm confident that the information that I'm providing there is accurate
Hmm.
and that I'm not lying in any way, that I'm being honest. I think that that just kind of set that kind of tone with them. She's not being pushy. She's not saying like, you don't need to call anybody, miss. I'm good here. It's just like, no, call somebody else. Go ahead and get more
Wow.
information. And if they're closer to you or you feel that, you have a better connection with them, by all means. And I always tell them, whether you choose me or not, you have my cell phone. You can still call me. And sometimes they do. Well, I went with this company, so they did this. I don't ever get into that of, oh yeah, they're doing it wrong. No, I would just say like, well, I just review what I give you and compare apples to apples. If something
Mm.
went wrong, maybe something was missing in the estimate, and that's what it is. Now you have to just, call your public adjuster or your insurance and try to, resolve the issue. But I'm always there for them, whether they choose me or not.
That's awesome. Wow. I really like that. It's like you're actually providing a service where you really do care about the person, and it's not just like on the level of a finance thing. It's like you're telling them if you find a better fit, go ahead and pick them. Like there's no upset or anything there. That's so cool. How often
Unfortunately.
how often do they call back and say, I am deciding to go with this company. I'm so sorry, or just anything along those lines?
It's not very usual because I have a very good closing. Everybody, once I talk to me and I provide the information, most, 95% of the times they go with my company. But I've had my few.
That's awesome. So well
And
done.
sometimes, what happens that sometimes with my older community, the kids make the decisions. So then she loves me, but then my son is the one paying and he wanted to go with a cheaper company
Mm,
or he wanted to use so and so. And I told him that I already talked to you, but I don't listen. So, in those cases,
I
I have
see.
one couple that they did that. He's like, well, my daughter doesn't want to do that. I'm like, well, they're the ones paying the bill. Sorry.
Wow, that's cool though, but you at least understand their perspective, so it's not like there it doesn't sound like there's I mean, what would you say? Is there any upset or anything when they do decide with somebody else or
No, not by any means.
cool?
I know that I'm doing the best. I really love what I do. I
Hmm.
love, even before this company, I love providing information. I love educating people because I feel that most of the times it's not that people are trying to do the wrong thing. It's just that they don't have the information.
Wow.
So, I love what I do. And when customers go into that, I'm like, well, you know what? Just, you can call me just to kind of vent about your kid, but, we have to deal with the fact that they went with another company. Oh, well.
Wow. And I just want to make sure I clarify this. Like when you're saying they're not intentionally making wrong decisions, are you talking about when people are at the door and the person's in a panic and they want someone to sign something? Is that kind of when the wrong decisions can kind of be made? And is that what you're referring to?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think in those cases, and then when you go into like more remediation, sometimes
Hmm.
if the information is not provided to the customer in the way that they should, customer is trusting an expert. They call you because you're the expert and they will trust you. And sometimes they're not gonna be calling two or three companies to
Hmm.
do research. They don't, some people are not even tech savvy. They're not gonna go online and try to research. So they don't know the protocols. So
Mm.
they just go with what the expert said, and if the expert recommend that, they go with that. And then sometimes they realize that, more damage to their property was
Mm.
caused, or something was missing, or they get sick because the mold, they didn't test it after the remediation and mold was still lingering. Just there's just information I think is key during these,
Mm.
property damage instances.
Wow.
I'm sorry to go back to this. This is still something that I can't wrap my head around. Is there no legal recourse for somebody who, is approached in the middle of say, I think the example we've been using this whole time has been, the house burning down. That's sort of, your personal experience is one of the more general experiences. Somebody's walking out, kid in their arms. Somebody comes up to them, says, sign this. They do, provide the service, and they get a bill for $25,000. there's no legal recourse for that?
Wow.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
great
there's a
question.
lawyer that will help you, but you can imagine how that process can take.
It just feels so icky.
Wrong.
Like I don't know if that's the right,
Yeah.
like it's just wrong. And it
Yeah.
It's
feels like there
wrong.
should be like some like, and that's why, hearing you talk about the way that you educate people in advance, you're working with all the people you need to be working with. I had a whole list of questions about what types of people are you working with? Why aren't you working with people in these? But you work with everyone that you need to. Like you're really getting the word out, and I think that is sort of the coolest and most unique approach about your business. That to me was very impressive. Sorry,
Mm.
that's just listening to the story. That's the one thing that really jumps out to me is as that shouldn't exist,
Mm.
and that's why you exist in this business, and that's why I think you're going to be as successful as you've been, and extremely more so in the future.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that and even sometimes we assume that people, like, even in the trades, all these contractors, we assume they have the right information. And I always tell my fellow contractors, we all are in an area of expertise, and we need, out of respect, we need to, depend on each other for this. Let's
Mm.
not try to cross the line. When you go
Mm.
to a house and they had a fire, I know you really want to rebuild that kitchen because it's going to be $30,000 for you, but I need to come first to make it safe, because it
Wow.
tends to happen that a lot in the industry, that little, the contractor doesn't want to wait, so they don't call for the mold. They hide it from the customer and they don't say anything
No.
and they move on. 3 months down the line, the person, I spent $150,000 in a renovation and now I have mold.
My gosh.
And I see these often, very often, new
Wow.
construction, homes, and renovations. I had a teacher that she spent all her life savings into the home that was going to be her forever home.
Oh my
The
gosh.
contractor didn't hire a mold remediation company. They just removed drywall. They saw it black, but they're like, we're going to remove it so it will be fine. They don't understand. The contractors don't understand. Their staff is not trained to understand that when you see mold, you stop,
Right.
because there's a company that is going to have to take care of this. It's not just a matter of removing. There's
Oh
force
no.
in the air, especially here in Florida. You cannot just remove it. There has to be a protocol. And I work
Mhm.
with a lot of my fellow contractors, and I go to their safety meetings to educate their staff too on these
Mhm.
instances.
Mhm.
Plumbers, roofers. If you see mold, don't, you have to say it, because it's
For
going to
sure.
cause an issue for the homeowner.
Yeah, the homeowner or the person working there doesn't know that there has to be a barricade. It has to be like literally barricaded with plastic, and that has to be taped, and there's a special way to remove it. And like you're saying, to prevent the spread of the spores, which are like the tiny little mold cells or however they want to be called, like that also that has to be taken out and like put in a plastic bag before you can exit into the other room where there isn't the mold.
And with the hurricane, I saw a lot of my older, community. Like, I was heartbreak because they will call me and be like, well, the hurricane happened. They came and removed my walls and I have my drywall back. My house is fine. I go test it. The studs are still wet. So they just spent $10,000 in something that needs to be removed again.
Yeah, I
Wow.
mean, it's. I think what you're talking about is the concept of know what you don't know. Like when you're
Mm.
in a business, it's very like when I'm working with clients, like I'm very able to say to them, if they ask me a question about something I don't know, I tell them that. I don't
Mm.
know what you're asking me. I don't have the answer. I'll put you in touch with the person that does. That's how I build rapport. That's how
Mm.
like I don't have, I've only been doing this for what I've been doing for a year. I'm not an expert in everything. There are people that are experts. You refer people to those experts, and it's
Mhm.
just feels like it should be something that just makes intuitive sense that people
Mhm.
do. But it makes sense, in these industries where people can see, oh, if I don't say anything, I'll get a $40,000 check in 2 weeks as opposed to in 6 months or whatever it
Sure.
is. So I'm going to
Exactly.
do it.
Mm.
Is there any once again, I think maybe I have a little too much faith in, is there recourse or is there something someone can do in that situation? Like
They
if
they
that
can they
happens to
have to
them?
go back to the contractor and try to, but how will you prove that? I mean, that is the
Mm.
hard thing.
Wow.
Because even
It,
So
people
people
with these new build homes, brand new homes, they turn them in 4 months they have mold.
Mhm.
And they go to the builder, how come? This is a brand new house and now I have all my walls full of mold. They're like,
Mm.
well, we don't know what conditions were present during this time, and they will argue all these type of variables that play, a role into the mold.
Wow.
but I always tell my customers when they're removing walls, be present, take pictures, ask them to take pictures. You're entitled to receive these. You need these. When they're removing a roof, ask them, I need pictures of my drywall on that side where it was wet. I want to see, because that's when you're going to catch these things before they close it all up, and then it's a nightmare.
Wow.
I think that's one of the most important pieces of education that I've learned personally, just from talking to you, is take pictures. Like that feels like anytime you move into an apartment, you take pictures so you can prove to the landlord that, oh, this wasn't me or whatever it is. Anytime, you bring your car into a shop, you take pictures. It feels like it should just be intuitive that you take pictures of your house that somebody's doing work on. You won't believe how much work is going into this house. I've never once taken a picture of something. I'm sort of kicking myself now because I should have. And that feels like something, that the community outreach that you're doing is going to do an excellent job of sort of informing people on how to approach. And hopefully things like this call, anyone who's listening here, are going to hear, hey, take pictures. It's such a simple thing that could really make a difference in somebody's life.
Yeah.
Exactly. And as the contractors, like I always tell my customers, if you're going to go with a different company, they should provide a final report where you have all these before pictures, during remediation, and after. You need this information because sometimes you're not going to be around, or sometimes you're out of state. You need this supporting documentation, these, reports from the company of the work that they did.
Wow. I think this is brilliant. And I really like this interview as well, because it really opened my eyes to, coming from Montana. I've always expected that everyone was going to be somewhat kind to one another and care about one another, because that's how people act in Montana. But coming here and hearing stories like this, it's almost just like, oh, you have to be educated so you don't get taken advantage of. Like, this is important.
I think that's just go ahead, sorry.
And know your resources. The counties and the cities, they do a lot of the chambers of commerce. They do a lot of work into trying to educate the people. So be part of it. When you hear that there's a panel going on, go and inform yourself, because these are topics that can not only help you, but people around you.
Wow. Can
Yeah,
we
but
say,
Ian, to what you were saying, money is the root of all evil. Like it's as soon as money is involved, you have to check your back. You have to do all the right things. You have to check all the boxes. And as soon as money gets involved, that's just where people that's where people are taking the short corner. And I guarantee you, half of these people that run these companies that are deciding, I want to, maybe not want to, but I'm going to go in and take advantage of these people, probably very kind people. The moment that money gets involved, it's just, I have to do what's best for my business. And something that Adriana said before, I think really spoke, is they're so used to it. This is the environment that they deal in. They're so used to showing up on site with, traumatized people, that to them, I think they've sort of depersonalized it. So it's not about taking advantage of people. It's not about harming people. It's about making money. And it sort of is a way that people can justify doing something like that. And look, and to be fair, this is a little bit of speculation on my end, but for me, in order to sort of understand why and how somebody can do that, I have to be able to put an explanation to it. Or else I won't be able to go to sleep at night. So that's sort of just what I'm doing there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they have quotas to fill. When it's a hurricane and they're sending a franchise that is in California, that is in Pennsylvania, they have quotas to fill. So these project managers are under a lot of pressure that, you need to turn your numbers for this week. And the estimates cannot go lower than 25,000 regardless.
Oh my gosh. Because then it's their job.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's a lot. It's I'm really glad you said that, because now we're talking about a lot of different viewpoints that all have pressures from different directions. The person who is having a devastation is in panic and scared. The person who's coming to the place is also in panic and scared because they need a quota to be met. And along the lines, if I'm hearing this correctly, some lines get crossed, and it can be upsetting, and it can be damaging to a relationship and damaging financially to a person.
Yes.
Wow.
And it all involves, there's a lot of interest when it comes to this. There's so many details. It's so complex, if you want to name it. When storms hit, I don't know if you guys were aware, but the landfills were closed for people that have private dumpster companies. They were only allowed the contracts that the county gave to these specific vendors, if you
Interesting.
want to call it. So all my friends that had dumpster and junk removal companies, they could not work anymore because they could
What?
not dump.
Oh my gosh. And you know, the thing that really strikes me about all this that you're saying is being in Florida, I have seen months go by of people having all of this dump and waste that were a public park was used as replacement for all of this stuff that was getting stored and literally thrown away, whether it be debris or people's personal belongings that got damaged in a storm.
Yeah, there's a lot of interest that come involved, when these big storms like it was for us this year, one back, just back to back. And there's a lot of money. There's a lot of, the county is gonna grant certain contracts to certain people. These ones, depending on how many tons of junk they remove every day, they get this amount of money, this bracket of money. So then the best way for them to make more money is to remove the private sector. So they're like,
Oh my
okay,
gosh.
forget it. You can still pick up all your junk, but you cannot dump it. So
Wow.
of course they're gonna get to a point where they didn't know what to do. They were at a stop when they could have been making crazy profits, because this is the time once they opened these contracts to specific companies and the landfills were restricted to only people that were carrying waste directly by the county.
Wow.
I don't even have a word that can properly describe that. That's crazy.
I think the thing I'm gathering from this is it pays to know.
Yeah.
I love this conversation and where it's gone and like truly like an educational session. I wasn't anticipating getting this type of education from just doing podcasting alone. But with that being said, is Alexander, do you have any more questions you want to ask or?
No, I think I asked everything I wanted to. I think, you've been an incredible guest, incredibly informative, everything, So thank you for coming on. Thank you for doing such a great job and for being here. Yeah.
Thank you
Wow.
guys for having me. This has been so fun.
Oh, yay. I wanted to be sure as well, Adriana, is there anything else that you wanted to add that you're like, even if it's, please contact us or anything. I want to make sure you.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can, Puroclean has 400 franchises and Puroclean of Pinellas Spark. And I'll be happy to just assist people with information, when you're like at that point where like you're concerned about something, but you don't know who to talk to. You guys can always contact me, 727-291-8, and I'll be happy to guide you, at least to resources that are there available, because there's a lot of resources available. And I think that that's the most powerful thing about networking, be able to have those resources in place. So when your customers contact you, you can, just provide these different people that are there to help resolve these issues.
Awesome. I completely agree. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you both so much for your time. I really appreciate this. It always makes me smile to think of like Alexander, how you and I cross paths, and Adriana, how you've just been wonderful and how we've crossed paths. And it's just, this is really great. Like I feel very fortunate to have connected with both of you. So thank you.
Likewise, yeah.
To anyone listening, to Adriana, Ian's a great guy to know.
Well, thank you. Awesome. Cool. Sweet. I think I'm just going to end off the recording then. There we go.